Canelo Alvarez versus Terrance Crawford is the boxing super fight of this generation, and it takes place this Saturday at 168 pounds. This is the first time Terrance Crawford has fought at the weight class, taking on Canelo Alvarez, who's been dominant throughout his reign at 168, hasn't lost since the Dimitri Bivol fight at 175 a few years ago. And now we have the undefeated lifetime boxer, Terrance Crawford, on the opposite side in a matchup that has me really excited to talk about some boxing and go in depth about what I think. I'm looking at it and I'm like, there hasn't been a fight with this essence, I feel, even since Pacquiao versus Mayweather many years ago. And obviously, that fight under-delivered as far as the entertainment value. But this matchup here, I think, can live up to not only the pre-fight hype of skill, but the actual in the boxing ring action. I look forward to this matchup Saturday. It's one of the first main events from boxing in a very long time where I feel like it is the main event of the weekend for me. UFC Noche going down earlier in the day, Dana White promoting this boxing event. I love watching high level combat between two hyper elite fighters in their relative primes against one another. We'll get into it during the breakdown if we're truly getting prime versus prime. But I do feel as though the air of intrigue around the matchup, seeing that Crawford has been undefeated throughout his entire boxing career, seeing that Canelo has been fighting at 168 pounds for a while now and really acclimated to this weight class, should be a bit of a size advantage. I look forward to the beautiful boxing skill that we're going to witness this Saturday. Now, I first want to discuss how it's going to go down, what I think is going to happen when they get in the ring. I do anticipate 12 rounds of high-level boxing action. If there is a knockout in this fight, I would be rather surprised by that outcome on either side, really. Now, there's the assumption that Canelo being the larger guy for a longer period of time, Crawford's most recent fight, which took place over a year ago, I might add, was at 154 pounds against Madirov. He won a decision there. But normally, Crawford, known for violent knockouts, I believe 31 knockout wins across his 41 wins. Canelo, though, probably would have the more explosive punches at this 168-pound weight class. Crawford, moving up in weight, should certainly have an ability to hit a tad bit harder than before. And I think enough power to make Canelo respect him. But I'll be hard-pressed to say that either man's getting chinned on Saturday. What I anticipate is an interesting technical battle throughout the early rounds. Terrance Crawford is a one-of-a-kind boxer. He's the greatest switch hitter we've ever seen. Maybe the only other argument would be Marvin Hagler, but he has an essence similar to the great and powerful Marvin Hagler, and now this modern era. Timing on his shots is impeccable, an ability to counter at an extremely high rate, and because he can switch the stances in such a comfortable manner, fighting Terrance Crawford is almost like fighting two people while you're in the boxing ring against them. On the other side with Canelo Alvarez, you have the orthodox style, but you have a special Mexican fighter. Patient pressure boxing style, defensively quite sound, nasty work to the body with his left hook, does have power in all of his punches, but certainly can rip some deadly headshots. His left hand is a danger zone. Crawford, being a stance switcher, mixing it up on Canelo really intrigues me because I see Crawford, when he does his switch from orthodox to southpaw, I could see the pawing of that lead hand shutting down that left hook of Canelo Alvarez, which is a big punch for him. I think that Canelo looping an overhand off the right side or potentially digging an uppercut or a right hook to the body in range is going to be less probable than if Crawford was just fully unorthodox throughout the fight and there's more of an availability for that power on the left side. I think Crawford could catch Canelo with quality straight shots, work a good jab from distance, stay moving at a rather efficient rate, picking his shots from range quite well. Typically, Terrance Crawford can do everything at an elite level. His footwork is nearly one of a kind. I'll say it's one of a kind, not nearly. It is one of a kind. The ability to fight out of both stances causes opponents to then have like a mental reset. Like, oh shit, now he's coming at me with a different look. Canelo's seen everything. He's fought everyone. but he hasn't seen a Terrance Crawford stylist. Now, on the opposite side, you could also argue Crawford has never seen someone like Canelo, but he's seen powerful hitting orthodox fighters in the past before. Now, he hasn't fought someone this big. He hasn't fought at 168 pounds. And there's an element of the fight with him going up in weight that causes panic on, the Crawford prediction side, right? As far as Crawford himself, I believe he has confidence that's unbreakable, unmatched in the sport, actually, of boxing. What I see is Terrance Crawford with solid counter shots on a pressuring Canelo. What I also see is Canelo will get punches through the guard. I don't think that he lands the blistering power shot with a left hook to the head or the body. I don't think that he has Crawford badly stunned. I could see him connecting with some good straight rights with Crawford and southpaw. I could see Crawford at times switching and getting off some left hooks of his own, finding shots to Canelo Alvarez in the pocket. I can see clinch work, and I can see, and you guys may very well think this could be a stretch, but I could see even the smallest ability to wrestle for Crawford in his background of wrestling that he has, a little bit of wrestling in that back pocket, being an element of the physicality in close range that gives him a better chance against a bigger man than a boxer who has never done any form of grappling before. Terrance Crawford has very good clinch strength, and he's incredibly strong. He has rare strength for a guy coming up. Normally, right, if you saw 154 versus 168, let's say it was somebody like Errol Spence even. Obviously, Terrance Crawford destroyed Errol Spence, but let's say that fight had never happened. You'd be looking and saying, okay, Canelo's going to whoop him. But Crawford is different. He can get dirty in fights too. As clean as his skill set is, Crawford doesn't have to be pretty to win. That's an element of his game that I really enjoy, is the fact that he can mix it up in all ranges, and he is willing to get dirty and close and rip shots. He has good head movement. Obviously, at a high level in boxing, you're going to have it. The striking skill of these high caliber boxers with their hands, it's second to none. This is world class. These are the guys, both of them, with two of, the best boxing styles in the history of boxing. And how I think it matches up is an intriguing 12-round affair with rounds being tossed and turned on both sides. Where things get interesting is not so much just my prediction for who I think is going to win the fight, but what the judges will declare the winner at the end. With a fight of this magnitude taking place on Netflix, probably the potential for the most heavily viewed boxing match in many of years, maybe ever, I have this weird inkling of a possibility that we could see a second between the two. And to assure a second fight happens between the two, a controversial even scorecard down the center is definitely in play this Saturday. And I'm not trying to tell you boxing is rigged per se, but there's a lot of money behind this. And it's easy to sway one way or the other on close rounds. And we have seen before, Canelo Alvarez's first fight with Gennady Golovkin was a draw. I believe there is a high probability of this fight ending in a draw, and I hate to say that. I feel strange saying I can predict the decision being the draw. But how I see the fight playing out, I think that there's an element to Crawford's unorthodox ability that could score him 7 rounds to 5. That's what I feel. But if it is as close as I anticipate throughout, I think there is a high possibility of a draw, or potentially, even if I feel it's 7 rounds to 5 at the end, Canelo, because of the Mexican Independence Day, and most likely a pro-Canelo crowd, they could sway it towards Canelo Alvarez. Slightly, but they could. Add another element to this fight. We haven't seen Terrance Crawford in over a year. If there is slow start to Terrance Crawford, this is a problem. Even if Canelo is up 2 rounds to 0 and then Crawford gets going, those could be crucial minutes lost in the fight that cost him the biggest win of his fighting career. If you know Terrance Crawford, you know about his slight lack of activity. He's been fighting once a year. Dating back to 2020, we saw him beat Kell Brook. 2021, we saw him beat Sean Porter. We saw him in 2022 beat David Evasion. In 2023, he beat Errol Spence. And in 2024, over a year ago, August 3rd of last year, he beat Israel Maderov, who actually gave him toughest fight in years. Obviously, Crawford was comfortably ahead and truly won the decision, but went the distance. Prior to that fight, he had been finishing everybody 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 straight knockout wins for Terrance Crawford, or TKO, prior to the fight against Madirov. He's not getting any younger. He was off over a year prior to that. There's worries in the back of my mind with layoffs for a guy who's nearly 38. Terrance Crawford, birthday, September 28th. He turns 38 years old in a little bit under 3 weeks from now. And he's taking on Canelo Alvarez, who obviously still, is not the youngest guy at 35 years old, but primed for sure. And I'm not pushing the narrative that Terrance Crawford is past his best days, but there has to be worries around it. We've seen Canelo a bit more often. He's been fighting twice a year, pretty much, dating back to 2021. In 2020, he only fought one time. But we have seen a very active Canelo Alvarez. Does the element of his activity throw this fight off? There's questions that I'm asking myself that can only be answered by them doing the fight. Looking at the abilities of both guys, if I have high quality Terrance Crawford, who's still in his prime, versus high quality Canelo Alvarez, I do think Crawford could win a very competitive decision. But the element of the power punch from Canelo being the bigger guy and more accustomed to this 168-pound weight class is an element to the fight that I think is hard to overlook. The element of him potentially starting faster and winning the early rounds over Crawford, and then Crawford starting to come on in the middle rounds, is a red flag. The confidence level, though, that Terrance Crawford has is something to behold. The man's never lost as a professional. He's looked unbeatable for a really long time. I'm going to stick with my prediction that Terrance Crawford has the ability to win enough moments in this fight to deserve a decision. But I don't feel in my heart of hearts that he gets a decision. I could see it being a split draw. I could see it being a Canelo Alvarez majority decision. Even though I'm predicting the winner of the fight, predicting the judges' scorecard winner, you favor draw or Canelo Alvarez with this Mexican Independence Day. We've seen it before. We've seen the bad decisions in boxing, and I hate to say that a robbery is coming. I think it'll be close enough where pundits will argue against a robbery narrative. But I'm expecting to have a close scorecard favoring the side of Terrance Crawford. I'll be live for the whole fight and scoring it live, so tune into the Fight Companion, and we'll get to feel things out and really see. I'm just worried, man. In my heart of hearts, I'm worried about how the scorecard is going to be read off at the end. And I think they very well could go towards the side of Canelo, even in an unjust manner. Even if Crawford had won 7 of the 12, they'll find one to make it a draw or potentially even 2 close rounds to favor Canelo Alvarez. And then you add in the intangibles like a layoff, like the rumors that are circulating that Terrance Crawford has some type of shoulder injury. Nothing is confirmed. There's been rumors that both guys, one of them, has an injury. We don't know who for sure. Seems that the masses are more so believing that it's the side of Terrance Crawford, which I don't know if it's true. There's no evidence of such injury. I think Terrance Crawford is a one-of-a-kind fighter, as is Canelo Alvarez. I am not expecting this rivalry to end here. I'm expecting to see it again. I think the fight will be close enough to push towards a rematch, and I'd love to see it again. Now, of course, Terrance Crawford, if they fight 6 months from now, he's 38. Time could best him. It could be a draw here, right? 6 to 9 months go by, they run it again, and then Canelo gets him. I could see it. It's like a Golovkin story, obviously, through a faster timeline. There was a long delay between the Golovkin trilogy with Canelo Alvarez, and he did wait out Golovkin. Don't think he didn't. He waited out Golovkin to beat him when he was past his best. Ultimately, I thought Golovkin had won the first fight between the two of them. I'm going to say Terrance Crawford does it. I'm going to say that he deserves it, actually. I'm going to say he deserves it. Does it is tricky to say. I'm going to say he deserves the win at the end of the fight, but very well may be robbed of his greatest success in this beautiful fight game. Now, I do want to look at the betting side of the fight. I think the gambling element of this fight is worth having a brief discussion about and seeing. and you can look at the odds in front of us. I'll zoom it in so it's more optimized here. At minus 180, Canelo Alvarez is sitting at favorite status. On the opposite end, Terrance Crawford, the plus 140 underdog in this spot. For good reason. Hasn't fought at this weight class before. At one point, Terrance Crawford was, I believe, fighting. Was it at 135? Back, I remember these early days. When he fought Gamboa, it was in, yes, lightweight. He was fighting at 135. So seeing him jump over 30 pounds, there's an element to that that's worrisome. But to be fair, on the opposite end, Canelo Alvarez's early days were taking place in a lighter weight class as well. I believe the lowest he fought, though, was, yes, 147. What are his early days? As a 15-year-old kid, he was fighting at 140 pounds. As a child, he was fighting heavier than Crawford did throughout a serious portion of his championship prime. So size is a factor. Of course, the old saying goes, a good big guy beats a good little guy or even a great little guy. But when you get into the actual tail of the tape between the two of them, it's not a crazy disparity in height and reach. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But to read off the odds, I am anticipating this fight to go into the later stages. You're not going to make a lot of money betting this fight going over 11 and a half rounds. It's minus 410. Draw. Fight ends in a draw at plus 1,300. I am unhappy about it, but I am reluctantly predicting that we are going to see a draw or some type of split or majority decision down the center. I have a hard time seeing Crawford get a deserved decision, which pisses me off. Don't get it twisted. This has been the problem with boxing. I hope this is untrue. I hope a fair and just decision comes. Any other result looking interesting to me? I don't see a first-minute win. Either guy getting knocked down, I lean towards no. I feel like the over rounds and then obviously betting the draw, if you want to sprinkle a D-Gen call and you're seeing kind of what I'm saying, I think fight goes distance here. The pick, actual who wins in ring, I think Crawford closely, but who wins decision, I lean towards robbery draw or even Canelo getting a slight gift of a decision if close enough, which is unfortunate, but this is just kind of what we see in the boxing world. Now, looking at the tail of the tape, 5'8" to 5'8". I believe Canelo's actually 5'7.5". Crawford in the face-offs has looked a bit taller, and I think that's an element to this fight, is that Crawford, though he's a skinnier guy, he's not necessarily small. And then looking at the reach, Crawford's going to have a 3.5 reach advantage. I think that 3.5 inches is an element to this fight that intrigues me a lot. Crawford from the outside having moments as Canelo is more of the patient, pressure-based boxer looking to close the gap and land from more mid and closer range. But Crawford can fire in close range too. I really think Crawford can have an outstanding performance and win the hearts of the crowd and win the hearts of the people watching. But it's going to be damn hard to have to beat Canelo Alvarez and to have to beat boxing judges. This is the most unfortunate truth of boxing, is robberies are commonplace in the sport. Biggest fight, definitely of the 2020s that we're looking at, maybe arguably the Fury-Usyk fight, 1 and 2. But this feels bigger. It's on Netflix. It's between undefeated Terrance Crawford and dominant Canelo Alvarez, really the face of boxing in Canelo, then the face of true elite level skill in Terrance Crawford. I love the matchup. I'm going to go with Terrance Crawford as the official in-ring pick, but don't get it twisted. I really am worried that they end up robbing him come the end of the fight. I'm expecting it to go longer. Now, if Crawford was to win on the cards and the decision was just, it's plus 190. I would prefer, if you are going to bet a straight money line, Crawford as the underdog plus 140. I wish you luck. Not a great value line, and with the possibility of a robbery, it's worrisome. At open, Canelo was minus 230. Crawford on the opposite side at open was plus 184. I look towards Terrance Crawford's ability to switch hit as an ability to land more significant punches throughout the fight and have bigger moments, but I just fear we end here in draw zone. So take with that what you want, okay? Ultimately, it's still an amazing moment to have like a Zuffa boxing event with Dana White as the promoter of this. Obviously, he's got his boy Callum Walsh in the co-main event versus Fernando Vargas Jr. Of course, it's an attempted chance for Callum Walsh to have a bit of a breakout fight against son of a great in Vargas. Obviously, look at the odds. Callum Walsh expected to win. I do think there's a high chance he wins. This is a guy I'm looking forward to, though. Christian Mbili. I remember watching him randomly on an ESPN Plus fight night for boxing, of course. And I said, this guy's got some terrifying power. Now, his opponent, Lester Martinez, on the other side, sitting at slight dog status. I like the punch and power, but at the end of the day, I won't call this an expert prediction here. The real breakdown is just focused upon the elite level main event fighters. But it is a very watchable card. Ivan Daichko getting a big chance. I remember watching him in the Olympics. Holy shit. Olympic boxing in 2016. I followed that to a T, and 15-0 now. I'm curious to see him get a win here. I think he can handle Jermaine Franklin as well. I don't know what the odds are for that fight. Now you guys got me curious. Do they have the Daichko odds? Minus 130? I'm going with my guy Daichko, but I will say it's more of a fan-sided pick than anything. That right there is this weekend's high-caliber Netflix boxing card. It's a one-of-a-kind fight card. The pay-per-view, no. You don't got to pay for it. All you need is a Netflix subscription, and you'll be watching. I will be live for the entire card. Actually, I'll be live for the entire day because I'm also doing the UFC Fight Companion. So make sure you guys tune into the stream. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this in-depth boxing breakdown for this matchup. And do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments. Are you seeing what I'm saying? The possibility of a robbery and a gift and a controversial draw. It seems more than probable here with the sport of boxing. So let me know in the comments if you agree. If you got nothing to say in the comments, please enjoy the content as always. W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. I love you all. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you're new to the channel and turn on the post notifications too. And I'll see you all in the next one. Peace out.